Hey guys, welcome into the Guilty as Charged podcast. That sucked, but my guys are here. Alex and Arjun here with me. Steven is not here. He's at the game, and that's honestly the reason why there was an Avalanche loss today, as we talked about on the preview show yesterday. Honestly, let me just go through everything real quick, all the negative stuff, all the stuff that happened, and then we can take this whatever direction we want, including one particular tweet from somebody that I do want to talk about because I feel like we should. So injuries. Joey Bosa exited in the first quarter with a groin injury. Rashawn Slater exited in the third quarter with a left bicep injury. Kenneth Murray seemed to be a lower body injury. He exited. Josh Palmer came up limping at one point in the fourth quarter. He went back in. He seems okay. A couple of plays later, Jalen Guyton was hurt, targeted downfield. I'm not sure what the issue is yet. We're just getting on now, so apologies for not knowing exactly. Of course, J.C. Jackson, Corey Linsley, Keenan Allen, Donald Parham all did not play. And yeah, Herbert had that rib issue. So there's the injuries out of the way. Just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. The Jaguars had 413 yards of offense and scored 38 points, picking up 25 first downs and converting 10 of 18 third and fourth downs. You guys having fun yet? The Chargers did not sack Lawrence once. James Robinson had almost 6 yards a carry. The Jaguars rushed for 151 yards. The Chargers offense is going to have very inflated numbers. So whatever the numbers are, it's far worse than that. But they finished with 312 total yards, went 5 for 15 on third and fourth down. They averaged 2.2 yards per carry on the ground. Herbert had solid moments for sure, and definitely his misses, but they couldn't sustain anything. If they did, there was a penalty. The Chargers had 7 penalties for 54 yards, and I believe there was one declined holding call as well on Storm Norton. The Chargers had 2 turnovers to Jacksonville's 0. They let Jacksonville hold on to the ball for almost 40 minutes. And my final thing I'll add before I give it to you guys, from Brentley Weissman, the former scout for the Chargers. And yes, I do believe that he does information in the building, or at least he has sources in the building. Whether this is true or not, I have to bring it up in case you missed it. From Brentley Weissman, going to get real interesting inside the Chargers building this week. Had already heard about some rumblings regarding team leadership and players not having buy-in with the staff's messaging. Losing like this won't help, which was kind of okay. We thought that was like, a Staley issue, a Lombardi, a Telesco, whatever issue. But then he followed up with that, which felt like saving his ass a bit. Team leadership, as in the players, not front office. FYI, I don't think Staley's job is in trouble at all. Just needs to get his players to buy in more. So I don't quite know what to make of that yet. I will say, and sorry for just going through all this real quick, but I figured we just get it all out of the way. Had heard some rumblings last year about things internally not being so great, including accountability, lack of competition, that sort of thing. There was a scathing review of Staley from internally, from within the building. I won't get into. The guys know what I'm talking about, but I won't get into it. So I do believe there is potentially something here. But yeah, there's that. So Arjun, Alex, all of these things were just listed off. It wasn't a great game. Even if you thought they were going to lose, I don't think any of us saw this happening. Your thoughts?
They had 10 days to fucking prepare, and they lost by 28 points to the Jaguars at home. It's malpractice. I don't care that Slater was injured. I don't care that Keenan Allen didn't play. Herbert obviously injured himself. There's just no excuse for it. This is the worst loss since they lost to the Patriots under Anthony Lynn, and I don't ever remember a Staley performance this bad where the team just came out this flat, and the coaching, I mean, Brandon Staley and the entire coaching staff got out coached by Doug Peterson. He ran laps around them for 4 quarters today. And then down 28 or down 21, they start the fourth quarter with an end around to DeAndre Carter that immediately lost 5 yards from the moment the ball was snapped. And then with 5 minutes left, down 28, they kept Justin Herbert in with Storm Norton and Trey Pipkins protecting for him while he has broken rib cartilage. I don't know what I just watched. Like that, I mean, 413 yards of offense given up to the Jags. I mean, credit to Trevor Lawrence for its due because he was throwing through some tight windows all day. But I mean, I've never seen a Staley team come out that unprepared and just look that flat throughout the entire game. It never got better. In fact, it got worse. The injuries are obviously the big thing to talk about. But I mean, all of the issues that were present in some of the Raiders and the Chiefs games just built up today, and they resulted in what we just saw. And so hopefully this is a wake-up call for the team. But I fear with the injuries that this could only be the beginning of what's to come.
Yeah, I have three things I wanted to say. Number one, I would again, I'm not here to take a victory lap on the team that I enjoy rooting for and supporting, but on Friday I said if you lose good players, you're not going to be as good. When you don't have four Pro Bowl players playing for this team, how can you be so confident that you're going to beat this Jaguars team, which got better in the offseason? And like people were coming and saying, "Oh, just because Herbert's not playing, there's still like I still feel confident we're gonna win." Why? What about this team so far this year has given you confidence that they can win a game without Herbert? Like, if they play the Texans without Justin Herbert, are they winning? I seriously don't know that question because nothing is easy on this offense. Nothing comes easy. Everything is Herbert manufacturing a play for himself. So, number one, my read on this game was, again, not trying to take a victory lap, but it was right. And the Jags just ran away with this game. And because the Chargers can't come back without Keenan Allen, it just manifested. Number two, Storm Norton had 6 fucking pressures in half a game of play. He allowed 6 pressures from the time he came in for Rashawn Slater on right now 15 pass blocking snaps. Now, again, everything is subject to change, but 6 pressures.
2 penalties.
Right? Yeah, and 2 penalties. Like, it's unfathomable that he's like an NFL tackle. He is. It's gonna be something if he's starting next week. And mind you, the Texans actually have a decent D line. Like Jerry Hughes and Jonathan Greenard, can put in work.
Mm-hmm.
If Storm Norton is starting at left tackle, it's not going to be pretty. And then number 3, the $20 million receiver the Chargers paid in this offseason had 1 catch for 15 yards and a touchdown. Steven was saying he was open down the field. Okay, that I would tend to agree with Steven there, right? So then is it Justin Herbert's fault? Is he being too timid in the pocket? Or is Williams not being schemed open enough? Like, how can you pay $20 million to a receiver and in 2 out of 3 games he combines for what, 3 catches
yards.
For 25 yards? Or something like that. That is not the way a football team is supposed to be run. And that is not the way that he should be integrated in this offense. It's just and you're right. If you take out the garbage time stats, what did the Chargers do? Literally nothing. So those are my big 3 takeaways. It's just I don't know. It's so tough to watch right now.
It really is. The whole thing. It seemed like okay. We're kind of Justin Herbert might struggle, but the defense will be okay. It didn't look great even early on, but I figured, okay, maybe we're headed for a 27-17 loss or something. It wasn't that great. As far as Mike Williams goes, couldn't say much about this game. Again, so Steven was at the game. He can see the field. He said there was a couple times Mike Williams was open. Wouldn't have mattered, 38-10 anyway. But it seemed like Justin Herbert was hesitant to throw the ball downfield to him on some occasions. But watching him against the Raiders, it was apparent that he can't separate. And what he does really, really well, he's so good at. And we literally saw that today. We saw it last week. But he's a guy who requires catches on no separation. And sometimes he's very good at that. But it's also not efficient. It's not really sustainable. So I'll wait to see what happened this game. If he was open 12 times and Herbert just couldn't get it to him, that's on Herbert and obviously his injury, I guess, or the line or something. But that is definitely frustrating. Like you said, 25 yards in 2 games, sandwiched in the middle is a 113-yard game. Not great there. It's also just personnel for me, and it kind of was going into this game as is, but it's okay, we won't give Jalen Guyton any reps. They throw Jalen Guyton the ball once, and it's a 50-yard, like the highlight of the game. It's like, oh, maybe you should involve him a bit more. Let's check in on Joshua Kelly. And I think, Arjun, I do want you to talk about Austin Eckler a bit here. Joshua Kelly had 1 carry for -3 yards. By the way, the offense, if you're just counting running backs, had 10 rushes from running backs in a game where the Chargers, now they were trailing, and Herbert is the better player, but they had 10 rushing attempts. Sony Michel led the backfield with 5. Now, granted, he did have 4.4 yards per carry, so good for him there. But Joshua Kelly had, until the garbage time fourth quarter, I believe, like the final drive, 0 touches. He ended up with 1 carry for -3 yards. Austin Eckler, 4 carries for 5 yards. So right now, Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, 5 carries for 2 yards. That's how the offense went for the Chargers today on the ground game, outside of Sony Michel. Just confused on the personnel issues. And frankly, fine, I might as well continue with this. Why are you playing these guys late in the fourth quarter? I don't know why you're subjecting your quarterback to all these hits. Just criminal. I think the personnel issues have been weird. They got even worse. I feel like this game, you give Guyton a huge pass, he looks great, and then you just don't throw it to him the rest of the way. Maybe it's a deep ball thing. I don't know. But yeah, personnel, not great. And Storm Norton, we after the draft, we said, hey, we were in Vegas, and we said, I wish the Chargers had addressed a premium position early on. What were those premium positions that are non-quarterback? Corner, which I understand that they didn't because they have 3 solid ones, and they got Bryce Callahan. Edge, tackle, and wide receiver. And I feel like all of those things could have helped out the Chargers today. They didn't address them in the draft early on until, Jasir Taylor in the 6th round. And your 3rd round pick did he play? He was active at least. And then Spiller, for some god-awful reason, has not seen the field. So that's my long-winded way of saying personnel, from whether that was selecting the players or using the players or leaving them out there too long, was a disaster today. And again, speaks right back to the coaching and the whole department overall.
Yeah. I mean, like, well, they did target Jalen Guyton later in the game. 2 minutes left when he got hurt. So they did that later in the game and adjusted, I guess. I don't know. Like, this is why people. I mean, this game is why I didn't understand why people were saying they could win this game with Chase Daniel. I'm like, they have 0 run game. Like, they don't have one right now. And I mean, the fact that Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly and Sony Michel basically combined for nothing today, and as a team they had 2.2 yards per carry on 12 carries. Like, that's just going to be a chronic issue, and it's going to be like really hard to be any kind of playoff contending team when you're getting that little from your running game, right? Obviously they have Justin Herbert, and that's going to mask a lot of the problems. But with Justin Herbert, who's clearly not as healthy as he's been, and probably won't be for the next month, they're also not going to probably have Slater for a while as well. I mean, this is going to get really tough in the run game for the offense. And, we talked about taking a tackle in the draft, and now you're probably going to have to play Storm Norton and Trey Pipkins together on the field for over a month. That's what we're going to be watching week in and week out for a team that prior to the season had Super Bowl aspirations. Just thought, oh, we don't need to sign tackle. Trey Pipkins slides in here, and now Rashawn Slater's hurt, and you're fucked. There's no other way to say it than that. So I don't know, like this loss, the injuries that happened as a result of what happened in the game. I mean, obviously the Chargers can turn it around, but this felt like a different kind of loss for this coaching staff, and the combined injuries that were just totaled in this game. Like, honestly, it felt so bad that I don't know if they can come back from the path that they're currently on with the injuries and also the current coaching staff issues.
Arjun, are there any stats you would like to get into as well? Is there something else?
Yeah.
Any of the Storm Norton stats? How was the line in general?
Like, okay, Filer was really bad. Allowed 4 pressures. Zion 2, Pipkins 2. Slater, I mean, he won pressure in 25 snaps. So I mean, like, look, when's the last time a biceps injury has been like 1 or 2 weeks? Like that,
So hurt Slater,
again,
by the way.
not try. Yeah, he's has a sling right now on his arm. Not trying to sound down or anything, but it's going to be a long-term injury. And a lot of the work that we did over the summer at PFF is showing like the diminishing returns in pass blocking. So when you go from a 99th percentile pass blocker to a 1 percentile pass blocker in Storm Norton, you're going to get worse on offense. It's just a given. And so like this was a really, really bad injury. And I really hope he can come back quickly, especially for the last stretch of games towards the end of the year. But man, that's huge. But yeah, I mean, offensive line outside of Slater wasn't too great. And like, okay, let's get to this point. Austin Eckler is not a good running back right now. He's okay out of the backfield. He has a ton of stats inflated by garbage time checkdowns, right? Like, well, he had 8 catches for 48 yards. Great. He is not a good running back right now. He's averaging less than 3 yards a carry. He's averaging negative 1.31 rushing yards over expected. That's bad. And again, Austin Eckler's been great for years. I think he's finally, falling off. And people hate to hear that. He's the most liked player on the Chargers roster for good reason, for how much he does for the community. But he's, I think, hit that point in his career where we can start to see the decline. And it's unfortunate because right now the Chargers don't have anyone who can give them anything at that position. They're not even playing their fucking 3rd round pick. Like I don't like everyone, like, again, the whole thing leading up to the game is, we can rely on the run game. The run game will bring us home even if Chase Daniel starts. What run game? This is a bottom 5 rushing unit. Even before this game, they haven't been able to run at all. Eckler is not he's not a top 10 back. I don't even know if he's top 15 or 20 anymore. He doesn't look. The old Eckler would have got that first down on the pitch, even though that was a horrendous play call, running it to Trey Pipkin's side. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know that. But I mean, are there any other stats you want me to go over? Like, I can do pass
anything
rush.
positive? Yeah, pass. Actually, pass rush would be a good one because Trevor Lawrence did not get sacked, and obviously Khalil Mack.
Josh Allen had 10 pressures today. That's crazy. Khalil Mack 3, Morgan Fox 2, Otito 1, Rumpf, Derwin, Bosa 1, Tillery 0, Joseph Day 0, Austin Johnson 0, Van Noy 0. So much for the Van Noy experiment. I mean, that hasn't really done shit all year.
Yeah, that's been a rough one.
I feel like the coverage numbers will look bad, but I actually thought the coverage was like okay for the first half, and then when Bosa went out, there was just no pass rush juice. So
yeah,
it's just tough. I don't really know what I should be looking at from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I do agree that I think the coverage was a lot better. Things just like avalanche for the Chargers, and they had so much underneath. I'm sure the numbers won't look that great, but frankly, anything downfield, like, if they could contest it, they got pretty close, and I thought they were really solid. I thought ASJ was pretty solid. Yeah, the pass rush without Joey Bosa completely disappeared. And listen, like Joey Bosa, I think before the season all said that he was the better pass rusher to Khalil Mack, and through the season so far, the numbers held up in that regard. But for Khalil Mack to have basically no impact until a couple of run stops in the 4th quarter somehow, and then Chris Rumpf, Kyle Van Noy had 1 pressure with. I mean, can you remind me how many pass rush snaps those two had combined?
You said
Rumpf and Van Noy.
Rumpf and Van Noy. Van Noy had 14, Rumpf had 20, so 34.
So 1 pressure and 34 rushes from those guys. Yeah, not great. And we've been hearing, I felt really good about the whole Kyle Van Noy thing, and he was going to play linebacker, but then Kenneth Murray comes back, so he's a starting linebacker. So Van Noy doesn't have a role. And then we've heard about Rumpf being so great this offseason. And it's 1 game, so I'm not going to flame him for it. But he had 1 pressure. Was that? Do you know if that pressure was the earned one or the one where he like jammed the tight end and then rushed Lawrence kind of late. I don't know if you're able to tell or not until tomorrow or.
Well, I can tell it was the third down in the red zone right before half where Lawrence took off.
Okay, so basically, technically, he didn't win.
Yeah, it was like a cleanup pressure almost. Like
awesome.
It was past like 3, 4. Yeah, so basically 0 for being honest.
Yeah. So basically 0 pressures from your edge 3 and your edge 4. And once again, we talk about like, hey, can we get an edge in the draft? Maybe don't take a running back, even though, or at least use him. Or don't take a safety right now, but maybe at least use them. Yeah, definite bummer for there. Sorry, Alex, we've kind of been chatting.
Well, I mean, you could take a running back in the draft. They could have drafted Khalil Herbert 2 years ago. Didn't. So, he had 12 yards or 12 carries for 119 and 2 tutties today. But they took Larry Roundtree. And he's not on the team anymore, not even on active rosters. So that goes to how well they drafted. And Isaiah Spiller not playing, JT Woods not playing. And here we are with injuries upon injuries upon injuries and no depth to show for it because they've drafted poorly. Because some of these free agent swings that they've taken also haven't panned out. So this is where the Chargers are. And I don't know where they go going forward. This was just an absolute mess.
So let's try to talk about the future, which you could lean more positive, not like more positive because of this game, but certainly it'll be better than this game, I would assume. Rest of the year, let's say Slater's out for the year, which if he's in a sling and he does a torn bicep, probably going to happen. They've got 2 subpar tackles, I would say, although Pipkins has been okay. Let's say next week you get JC back, which was what it sounds like, and you'll get Lindsey back, which is what it sounds like, and you'll get Keenan back and Parham back. And let's say you just have average health and health luck the rest of the year. At this point, and in chat, please chime in if you would like as well. What is kind of your outlook? Are we overreacting to this one game, or do you really feel like after what we've seen last week and with the offense so far and the lack of a run game and now some of these injuries with Herbert's injury, how bad is it looking the rest of the year? Or should we not overreact to this? Or what do you guys think?
I think there should be some reaction. Like, this game definitely matters. It's not some type of like outlier performance, especially that it happened this early in the year. But I think we also need to recognize like the most important players on this team weren't on the field, and that matters. And unfortunately for the Chargers, they've lost important players at important positions. And I think it's going to be tough to replicate that. So at this point, I mean, like, is it wrong to say they're probably like a fringe wildcard team? Like, they're on the border like they were last year. If Slater's out for the year, that impacts your play calling more than Keenan being out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
I mean, I'd hope they can beat Houston next week, but I mean, they couldn't stop the run today. Or they did at times, but they only stopped it when they knew the Jaguars were going to run, when they were up like 20 or something. Cleveland has been running all over the NFL. Sebastian Joseph Day has not lived up to the hype. I haven't seen really anything from him. Like, Houston should be a win, but then after that, I mean, Seattle scrappy, Atlanta scrappy. Atlanta beat Seattle. Denver's going to be like in Denver. Like, the schedule does not look as easy, and the team does not look as good. So that makes you a wild card team at best. And if these injuries are really that severe, then I mean that lowers your ceiling significantly, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they just overreacting to this one game. I'm sure there will be a lot of that, but it's just like there's no move to make at this point, right? Like, if Slater's done for the year, he's done for the year, and like Arjun said, that is a huge loss for the Chargers that knocks them from being a potential like 11, 10, 12 win team to probably knocking 3 or 4 wins off right there. Like, I do think that's how important Rashawn Slater is to the Chargers and how they conduct their offense, especially when your backup left tackle is Storm Norton. and Justin Herbert has rib cartilage that's broken, right? So again, there's part of this, like, you're going to get Keenan Allen back probably next week. You're probably going to get Donald Parham back next week. But, if Joey Bosa, isn't going to, be performing at the same level, and you don't have Slater for the rest of the year, and on top of that, it's probably going to be another month before, Justin Herbert is really back at his full powers. I mean, this was supposed to be the easy portion of the schedule, right? You have the Jags and then the Texans and then the Browns, Monday Night Football against the Broncos, Seattle. Like, this was supposed to be the stretch where the Chargers racked up wins after the first two division games. And now the Chargers are probably in the worst state currently that they're going to be in all year. So from that standpoint, once you get players back, you can say, like, yeah, it'll get better. But I think the biggest thing from this game is just how thoroughly Staley and co got outcoached. 4th and 1, James Robinson touchdown, 50 yards to the end zone. Like, every single time on offense or defense that it felt like the Chargers could potentially get off the field for the Jaguars. Like, it just felt like Doug Peterson always had the answer, and that Staley, and it was tough with Joey Bosa out, but I don't know, man. Like, this is something they can come back from, and I do think they will obviously look a lot better next week against the Texans after getting punched in the mouth quite this badly. I'm sure there will be a lot of people in that locker room and a lot of people who want to come back from this win or from this loss. But just the practicality of it with the injuries that are racking up, the new additions that have not panned out, such as J.C. Jackson and Sebastian Joseph Day and Kyle Van Noy and most of your draft picks. This could get really ugly really fast, and I think the Chargers' ceiling is a 7-9 win team right now.
Yeah, I would say the adjustment, especially if Slater's out, that is like a whole game, a game and a half to me. Especially if the Chargers, they basically, as soon as they had Stormgard and O'Day go down, or excuse me, Brian Bulaga and O'Day go down, they changed their play calling to what felt like more conservative. They felt like, okay, we can't take these deep shots. What does it look like when Slater is also down and for the entire season? If that's the case, again, we don't know. I really don't know. So I do agree. I think fringe wild card team is the new expectation or projection, and that feels about right, but it could go either way. We'll see what these injuries are. I don't know how bad it really is. The Chargers don't exactly have another receiver. Like, I know people like Michael Bandy, but they don't have another receiver in the rotation if, Keenan gets hurt again and if Guyton is severely hurt or something. Like, there's not another guy who could just step in and make this work for the team. So yeah, I agree. Fringe playoff team at this point. Of course, they can definitely, go out and win some games. They could absolutely win next week. I think if everyone was healthy and they played the Jaguars next week, they'd probably win. But the difference to me and what really stands out is just the way they got beat. Like, yes, there were injuries. Yes, there could have been better execution in some instances. But to get absolutely embarrassed, blown out at home, like Alex said, you had 10 days to figure this out. And you had no answer. There was nothing. There was no, like, they don't even special teams, really even seem to be that great. Even if they had a decent return, it was called back for a penalty. Like, just nothing worked. And hopefully, maybe it's a one-game thing. But we're Chargers fans. We also watched this last year. We know it's probably not a one-game thing, even if it's not this bad. It's not exactly a one-game thing. And yeah, apparently the Chargers locker room cleared out in record time. They got to the locker room, cleared their shit out, and left. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know as a coach what you do looking at this game. It's like, do you look at the game film for a day and throw it out and start over, or what? Like, what do you do at this point? I don't know.
Someone saying Guyton is out torn knee. Is that just like GS or just thinking about it? I haven't seen anything about him.
Yeah, I can definitely check.
I haven't been on Twitter, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob Weber, please let us know. But I think, the locker room clearing out quick isn't obviously ideal. But I think going forward, I just want to see what the offense and like ultimately the team looks like when they have the players that they're paying big money to like actually play. And I think like, I mean, the 2018 Chargers started 1-2, but they didn't have a loss this bad. And like I would look in the Ravens and Bills direction, right? Like the Ravens last year were super hurt, and they still were 7-2 at one point with the number 1 seed heading into the playoffs. And then obviously they threw it. And then the Bills today the Bills were almost as hurt as the Chargers, losing all your 4 secondary starters. And then that's not even counting like Tre'Davious White. And they still only lost by 4 or 2 to a pretty like solid Miami team this year. So like
right.
I think good teams will figure out a way to keep things close, even if they don't have the talent. I mean, but you're getting blown out at home on 10 days rest against a team that just had the number 1 pick. Like, I think there's a little bit of concern there. And I don't know what the issue is. I'd figure that, with all the additions they had in the offseason, you have like leaders in that locker room. You have 8 captains. Like, I don't know why the energy isn't there, why they can't, seem to stop the run, why they can't seem to muster anything on offense. I don't know. It's pretty concerning, and I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, I mean the can't stop the run thing is really concerning to me coming from this game in particular, because I felt like they did a generally okay job the first 2 weeks at it, but they couldn't stop a nosebleed this game. I mean, Sebastian Joseph Day, pretty non-existent. Austin Johnson, pretty non-existent. And I mean, those were the 2 guys that we were like, yep, they'll fix the run defense. It's still bad. And like, obviously they were missing Bosa on the edge today, but for it to look as bad as it does on the interior, where it feels like Mac is like the only chance of stopping a run play, just standing on the edge there. I don't know, like that's just not a good situation to be in for the Chargers. And it just feels like, as much as we hyped up some of these offseason moves, a lot of it is still very underwhelming on the interior aspect of things. Someone said Jerry Tillery in the chat, and that's just going over my head at this point. I'm not even going to reference that, but I don't know. And like Arjun said, like at the end of the day, this is a Chargers team that now in 12 quarters has scored 58 points, right? Like, I mean, that's just not going to get it done at the end of the day if you're even thinking about competing with the Chiefs for some kind of division title. If you're thinking of just competing with some of these playoff teams, like what the Bills look like, what the Ravens look like, what the Dolphins have looked like through 3 weeks. At the end of the day, if your defense is going to be, broken by injuries and having to sustain how, inconsistent and spaced this offense has been for an entire year, and you have a hurt Herbert, Slater out, and all these other factors on offense, like I'm not seeing the point where it comes together to this being a playoff team, which is why I think you kind of have to reduce their ceiling unless things change from a coaching perspective and also just from a health perspective fairly quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, there's not a whole lot to really talk about more at this point until I see the film, until we get the official numbers. I'm trying to go through and look for some questions that you guys had in the chat. I know there were some super chats. I do want to make sure I get to those because you guys sent in paid super chats. I want to make sure that, y'all get those. I know my mom sent one in earlier. Something about good vibes for the healing. Mom, I apologize. I'll skip over yours, but thank you so much. Should we start looking for a new O-line coach? Really, I would start looking for a run game coordinator. The Chargers opted to. I didn't even connect this until like the first game. Chargers don't have a run game coordinator. It was Frank Smith last year, as well as being the O-line coach. And nope. No run game coordinator. And the run game hasn't been great. So I can't imagine there's not a correlation there. I feel like the offensive line has been like fine. Like Filer has regressed. Like it's been bad. But Pipkins, I thought, looked fine. Zion started and looks solid. Lindsley's hurt, but he looked good. Slater is Slater. So how do you guys feel about the offensive line coach?
I mean, I don't know if it's a coaching issue at this point or going forward. It's really a personnel issue. I mean, if you don't have Rashawn Slater,
Right.
Corey Linsley, his situation is on and off with the tendonitis. I mean, like I just said, you're looking at an extended time of starting Trey Pipkins and Storm Norton at the opposite tackle spots. And I don't think you could bring Dante fucking Scarnecchia out of retirement. I don't think there's a coach that's going to make that work. Like, and, you know, at the end of the day, that falls on Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley for consistently in the offseason being okay running with Storm Norton and running with Trey Pipkins, competing for that right tackle job, and not fortifying the depth or, you know, finding a way to kind of try to make competition to push someone like Storm Norton off the roster. Now he's going to have to play probably significant snaps for at least a month. And by significant, I mean probably all of them, right? You know, so, you know, obviously Will Clapp starting as well, who like looked fine, but at the same time, he's not Corey Linsley, right? Filer has certainly kind of regressed through these first 3 weeks compared to where he was in 2021. So to me, I mean, yeah, like, you know, Frank Smith in Miami definitely feels like a big loss, but at the same time, it's just like they don't have the personnel to sustain this offensive line right now, especially when you lose Rashawn Slater and Corey Linsley is not, it doesn't seem like he's any closer to playing than he was 10 days ago when he walked off the field with tendonitis. And I don't know what his situation is going to be through the rest of the year. So to me, this is less of a coaching issue and more of a personnel issue and reflects everything the Chargers did through their whole offseason on the offensive line.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, literally, Arjun, Steven, and I sat in that studio in Vegas and said, look, we should take a tackle at some point. Probably should take a tackle at some point. Probably should take a tackle at some point. And everyone's like, well, you don't understand. And it's like, safety is apparent. And it's like, okay, I think we should have taken one. Again, shouldn't be taking victory laps or anything. And it really isn't. It's just unfortunate. Yeah, not great. I believe this is about Brentley Weissman from Solo Man here. Saw a verified account tweet that player leadership with the Chargers, they're not buying into the schemes on both sides. So I think that's what he's talking about from Brentley, but I don't remember him mentioning schemes. So if anyone knows what that's specifically about, let me know. Also, it's Jeff Miller said that Jalen Guyton's injury appears to be significant, whatever that means. So
really?
Yeah. Again, no idea what that means. Didn't even say his lower body injury is significant. I have no idea. But we'll find out eventually, I guess. From some guy, does Sean Payton like LA weather? We need a competent GM and proven head coach with a competent strength conditioning and coaching staff. I don't know how I feel about the strength and conditioning and coaching staff and whatnot, because they were also pretty solid last year in that department. So
yeah,
I don't know if that's the outlier to the Chargers or if it's just, you know, they're 1-1 in that department. I don't know.
Like, can you just give us one podcast where we don't have to talk about Sean Payton, Bountygate King? Can we just criticize Brandon Staley? Like, we're not firing him yet. Can we just criticize him without hiring a new coach, please? Like, for 5 seconds.
Okay, sounds good. I'll take that off the screen. I'm sorry. I apologize. From Croy 554. If we keep losing, nobody will want Joe Lombardi. We will be stuck with him. Staley has lost the locker room. Players see through this BS. Soft team, they folded quick when it got bad. Yeah, I don't know what you do with Joe Lombardi at this point, because I think Herbert returns to health and suddenly they look really good and maybe they make the playoffs and they have a top 10 offense. But like,
maybe
does anybody want him? I don't know. I think if they continue their momentum from last year, absolutely. I thought it was a slam dunk, honestly. But they just, and the run game is no good. And, you know, maybe they'll chalk it up to Herbert being injured, but I don't know. I don't know what really happens to Lombardi right now.
Yeah, and I mean, if this gets really ugly and the Chargers go on an extended potential losing streak here, not saying that's going to happen, but if they're not getting the results out of the next 3-4 games that they need, at what point does Brandon Staley throw Joe Lombardi under the bus? I mean, like, that's a potential situation too, and we've seen that happen with coaching dynamics where stuff goes south really fast. I don't know how much I make of the locker room clearing out. I think anytime you lose by 28 fucking points, you know, the locker room is going to clear out fast. There's not a whole lot to talk about, or there is a whole lot to talk about, but nobody wants to talk about it. But yeah, I don't know if Staley has lost the locker room, but that is the most undisciplined Staley game I've ever seen. And when there are reports of, you know, big players on the team potentially not buying into what the coaching staff is selling. That's what we saw all day today, in terms of some of the key contributors that are supposed to be some of those linchpins for the Chargers, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So I don't know.
I think the thing that is just worrisome is like this. They have 3 years under Herbert's rookie contract, and this was the year they pushed all the chips in, and they don't have any cap. Like they don't have a lot of cap space, if any, next year. And obviously, next year could be different. The year after could be different, but like it sucks that everything's coming to hit the Chargers right now. We always knew they were gonna see some negative regression on the injury front. They were one of the most healthy teams in the league last year. Like I tweeted out, the Chargers' top 10 players, most of them stayed healthy last year. It was the 11 through 25 that got hurt and exposed the depth. But this year it flipped, and I think that you wanted the 11 to 25 players to be the ones who, obviously don't want any injuries at all, but losing all of those top 10 guys is going to hurt the team regardless. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Like, again, this is like, it's not supposed to be this difficult when you have an elite quarterback on a rookie deal, but when things don't go your way, injuries or, just unlucky plays, things like this will happen. And again, the significance of the injury to Rashawn Slater, we don't groin injuries linger, right? For Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack looked non-existent when Bosa wasn't out there. So
yeah,
it's gonna take some type of special performance by Herbert to take this team to the playoffs right now. But it's just tough to be optimistic right now when we kind of seen this season play out before, where one injury just kind of cascades and everything just shuts down after that.
Yeah. Just want to shout out Gavino Borges in the chat. The Chargers really took JT Woods over Max Mitchell. Yeah, Max Mitchell probably would have been maybe like my first day 3 pick, maybe other than a 3rd round pick. But I don't hate that. And yeah, at this point, I think JT Woods could be great. Absolutely. He's got the talent for it. But I mean, it's obviously not that great right now. And this is supposed to be an all-in team trying to win this year. And I don't really know that they needed a project safety in the 3rd round, because that's kind of how they view him. Like, he's not even good enough for special teams. All right, I'll give you a shout out. Yoda, whatever that is. Can I get a Duval? Yes, Robert Duval. There you go.
Shout out Doug Peterson. He did good this game. Only positive thing I have.
Sure. Honestly, at some point I was teetering between impressed with Doug Peterson and really irritated with Brandon Staley, because it was working out. And the weird thing is, like, they'll run mesh and they'll throw it to a guy underneath and the dude will get 20 yards. And it's like, I swear we're trying to run that thing too. And I don't know that they're like that really talented on offense, but for whatever reason, man, everything the Jaguars dialed up worked. And if there was a blitz that almost got home, they found a way to respond to that as well. Like, the offense, just everything for the Jaguars also worked today, as much as the defense wasn't really taking anything away.
Yeah, I'll also say, I mean, credit to Trevor Lawrence too, because like Arjun said, in the first half, like the coverage really wasn't bad on him, and he just like kept throwing tight window through tight window, and kind of earning every throw that he was potentially given. So I don't know, like on one hand, like, yes, the Chargers absolutely looked horrendous today, but the performances the Jags got out of Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence are very promising for their future. But don't know the Chargers right now.
Awesome. Good for y'all. That was great. Really good. I think that's it for the Super Chat questions. If you guys have any more, feel free to send them in. I see some people saying Dable over Staley. I mean, that was my preference at the time, because we have a quarterback like that. But like, I didn't dislike the hire for Staley at the time. Would you want to redo it? We don't know yet. We'll never really know. And I don't know how much Dable will actually win and get the offense going with the Giants. But yeah, people say, do y'all still like Joe Lombardi? I mean, I got to watch what happens. Like, if for some reason Mike Williams is down open 5 times and they didn't throw it to him, I don't know what we're supposed to do. But it's the cutesy calls. Someone talked about that DeAndre Carter -5 yarder.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the end
you're
around.
down 21 points. Like it didn't work the entire preseason, and now you're here down 21, starting the half and being like, okay, and let's try the end around to DeAndre Carter. Finally, let's empty the playbook right here. Like, I don't know, like it was just a weird game from him all around, and you go through like several questionable calls throughout the game. I don't know, like, and this is kind of what we were talking about during the Raiders and the Chiefs games, because statistically the offense was fine. It never, you know, was categorically like statistically bad by any means, but like it just looked clunky, and you have 5 straight drives against the Chiefs where they end up punting, or punting slash interception return for a touchdown. And then during the Raiders game, the offense also like petered out at various points, right? So you could probably put together like 6 quarters of these 12 where the Chargers just really like had no momentum of the offense at all. And that doesn't all fall on Joe Lombardi by any means, but like at some point, a lot of it does have to fall on the fact that, whether players are getting open or whatever it is, like it does kind of go back to him at the end of the day. And it just feels like the Chargers aren't scheming a lot of opportunities open like they were last year.
Yeah, yes, it is play calling absolutely as well. For me, with the whole Joe Lombardi thing, if I'm going to fire him for one reason, it's just that like nothing works together. Some 2/3 or 3 out of 4 things will work, but the other thing doesn't work, and there's always something wrong. And that speaks to an offense that isn't in year 2. You should be a lot better. This last year, they kind of struggled. They got going. They were top 5 offense by the end. Fine. And now, I mean, you protect Herbert, that's great, but he can't hit the open guy. Herbert's not protected well. Then there's a sack or a throwaway or a fumble, where everything's done correctly, where there's a contested drop, a hold, whatever, tip ball interception. God, we almost had another dropped tip ball interception for a touchdown today. We were so close to that. The run game doesn't work. You 4 guys block, 5th guy doesn't. 5 guys block, the tight end doesn't. I don't know. If I'm firing Joe Lombardi for anything, it's potentially the play calling, sure, but I think it's fine. The issue to me is that just the offense is not together, and that to me is more fireable than anything else. Fun stuff. Zach Whitaker, it sounds like, because you've mentioned it about 13 times now, that your son is going to be born very soon. You're hoping that his son isn't born on this dreadful night. Zach is, I know Zach from Twitter and everything. September 25th seems like a good date to be born. If he's born tonight, awesome. Congratulations. And hey, maybe something good will come out of today, because I'll take that over literally anything else. So good luck there for sure. Some people should have gotten Russell Wilson. Guys, I don't even know what we're talking about there.
We the game was so miserable, we couldn't even get the DeAndre Carter garbage time touchdown. Like my whole
that was literally the exclamation mark.
They were on 4th and 4. Like DeAndre, he does and no, like they couldn't even get that.
Yeah, I didn't even like the broadcast. Like, what worked today? Like nothing was good. Didn't chuckle once. Didn't learn anything about football.
Derwin was okay. And Asante for a little bit.
Derwin, Asante. Okay, you know what? We can talk about some good players. Now that we're at the 50th minute of the show,
you want to give out game balls?
Let's give it. Sure. Doug Peterson. No. Tranquil showed up in some occasions. I thought he played solid. I don't know what the coverage numbers look like, but it didn't seem like Davis or ASJ had a bad day. Derwin looked great. Bash showed up late, but was kind of throughout most of the game. Yeah. Jalen Guyton caught a heck of a pass.
Ball to Jalen Guyton, who probably
absolutely
knee or something when they finally decided to play him.
Man, let's see. Oh wow! So I guess the locker room really did leave. Like there wasn't even like a discussion about anything. I can't speak to exactly what, but I think there were some players who didn't even know that this was happening, and people just left before other players could even get into that room. So they left quick. Alrighty, guys.
Yeah.
I'll go for it. Go for it, Arjun.
I'm just saying, I don't know if there's anything left to talk about. We could probably Sunday Night Football's in like 10 minutes, so we could probably just
Alrighty, we will wrap it up. We will shoot this dying horse. We will put down old Yeller. This has not been great. But hey, thank you so much for joining us. 428 people right now. I have no idea why in back-to-back weeks of losses that 400 or 500 people show up to watch us live. Thank you so much. I know we're without Steven. I'm sure it would have been just as great with Steven, just as fun for sure. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Alex, Arjun, thank you for joining me, I guess. This wasn't fun. Hope to never do this again, but we're playing Houston next week, and that always goes well. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care.